Next. And this is from Central China. This is just an article I found in the New York Times. And this is an image from a Buddhist grotto in Central China. And the story goes, there are about 4,500 of these statues in Central China. Next. This is from Japan. And this doesn't look Africoid to me, but it's painted black. And that's a start. This is of the figure called Bodhidharma. Bodhidharma is supposed to have been the Buddhist monk from India who brought Buddhism and martial arts to China and Japan. And this is in a museum, once again, in Copenhagen, Denmark. Next. From the Philippines. Next. I'm going to finish up right quick. From Australia. That's where I was for my 50th birthday. My 4th trip there. Next. And I was able to get this image, which I think is adorable. If you want a good film about Aboriginal Australians, there's a film that came out about 2 years ago. I'm sure you can get the DVD. It's called Rabbit Proof Fence. Excellent film. And a lot of these essays and even a few of the photographs are in my book there. Next. And the videotapes. Now here's a good one. This is Tasmania. Perhaps you've heard of Tasmania. I went to Tasmania. I've always referred to Tasmania as the ghost land because most of our people were killed off there, Tasmanian Aborigines. And this is what it actually looks like. It's a beautiful place. Next. And here's another image. It looks almost otherworldly. It looks tropical, but it snows. It gets really, really cold. And when I was going through these forests, I tell you no lie, I felt like I could look out of the corner of my eye and see one of the Tasmanian Aboriginals like hiding behind a tree. It was a strong sense that I had that they were around me and they were checking me out. Next. Now this is an image of a sister. I usually show her a lot, but I show her as an old woman. Her name is Truganini. These people were cut in half, roasted alive, castrated, skinned alive, boiled in oil, kept in cages, kept as sexual slaves, you name it. The worst atrocities you could imagine was done to these people. And all of the books tell you that all the Tasmanian Aboriginals were wiped out. Well, I found out that wasn't true. That only the full-bloods were wiped out. That certain of these black women were kept as sexual slaves by white men who hunted seals. They were British, and they kept them and raped them, and children were produced from those unions. So when I went to Australia, I met with the descendants of those original black people. Once again, a really, really emotional experience. Next. And then this was her husband, who was murdered before her very eyes. His hands were cut off with axes by 3 white men, and then they raped her while he bled to death. That's a true story. Now, look at the hair. And then look at Norm Bond and wonder if he didn't pose for this. And then you have, he's wearing seal skin. Tasmania is a small island off the southeast coast of Australia. Next. And this was the last residents of the Tasmanian Aboriginals. All the full-bloods were kept here, the ones who survived, until they died in 1876. And I went there, and that sense that they were watching me became really, really strong. I had a good time in Tasmania. I learned a lot. It was just like when I went to Ghana for the first time and I went in those dungeons. At first, it's a dreadful experience. But afterwards, you seem like a burden has been lifted from you. And it seemed like you could have a better sense of appreciation for what your ancestors went through. Well, it was the same thing here. This was the first concentration camp in the world. And also, I actually did see a Tasmanian devil when I was in Australia. No, it wasn't a white man. It was an actual 4-legged beast that, interestingly enough, was painted black. Next. From New Guinea, somebody told me last week that looked like Theodore Pendergrass. They use the word old school now. Next. From New Guinea, this big island in the Pacific. Next. From Fiji. Fiji is one of my favorite places. These people jump up in your face and say, we come from Africa. Where are you from? And if you say, I'm from Africa too, you have got a family member for life. You come from Africa? We come from Africa. And then they say, have you been to Africa? Yeah, I've been to. Tell us we want to go. Isn't it refreshing to find black folk who are not ashamed of their place of origin in Fiji? But there are some interesting things happen in Fiji. I've been there a couple times. Let's go to the next one. This is an island chain in the Pacific. And one of the places we were going to, we encountered this little boy. Now, I was the leader of the group. I could do almost anything I wanted to do. And we had to stop at a village. Somebody wanted to use the bathroom. Somebody wanted to stretch their legs. Somebody wanted to smoke a cigarette. Somebody wanted a beer. We were going from one place in Fiji to the other. So all of us got off the bus, and we were all doing our respective chores. And this little boy walked out. And everybody stopped what they were doing to gather around this child. What's your name? You so cute. Can I take your picture? Here's some money. And then after we left, we got on the bus. Young brother said, Renoko, or Dr. Rashidi something, what kind of message did we just send to those people? I really had to think about that. Now, I thought consciously that I was drawn to this child because he looked different. Or is that really why I was drawn to the child? Is it that deep in our psyche, we do believe that the lighter you are, the lighter your hair is, the more attractive you are, and we are drawn to people like that because we have been taught to believe that. One of the things that travel does is it causes you to confront yourself. It causes you to look sometimes deep within at values and concepts that you didn't even know you possessed. Next. Next. Now, where do you think this lady is from? North Philly, huh? Nope. How about anybody else? From New Zealand. These people are called Whanganui Maori. And after I left Tasmania, I went to New Zealand. And these are some of the pictures that I came up with. Now, this woman looks like she could be from any part of the African world, but from New Zealand. And they are the Maori who live on the northern island on the other side of Auckland. Let me show you another one even better than that. Next. How about that? From New Zealand. You know what she reminds me of? Native Americans. So aren't these fantastic photographs? They say seeing is believing, and a picture's worth 1,000 words. Next. From Hawaii. Now, the people of New Zealand, the Maori, claim that they come from a place called Hawaika. And they see themselves as Polynesian people. And this is a little girl from Hawaii. And I bought a book as I was leaving Hawaii in November. I spoke at a conference there. And it's from the cover of a book called And Then There Were None. Because most of the original Hawaiians have been killed too. Next. From Europe, Brother Gary, this is in the National History Museum in Vienna, Austria. This is probably the oldest figurine in Europe. And you just look at the hair, and we can turn it around, you can see the hips. Black people are the aboriginal people of the planet, including Europe. Let's go to the next one. This one I saw in a museum in France. It's about half the size of your index finger. It's made of ivory. Look at the hair from ancient Europe. Next. This is an interesting one. This is the Rock of Gibraltar. And this is what separates Europe from Africa. And this is named after an African named Tariq, who was the head of the Moorish army, and that's where they stopped on the way to their invasion of Spain in 711 AD. I think it was called the Pillars of Hercules before then, and now it is called the Rock of Tariq, or the Rock of Gibraltar. Next. And these are the Moors. I don't know if I was here when Brother Norm and the Mata folks brought me here the last time. I don't know if I showed this slide. But anyway, it's okay to show it one more time. These are Moors in France. The Moors introduced, to my understanding, algebra, apples and oranges, and the concept of hygiene into Europe. White people at that time in Spain, white Spanish Christians, seemed to believe that it was a sin to take a bath, that bathing was a form of